If you knew that you could ensure a brighter, healthier, more vibrant future, would you want that? If you were given the tools to effectively lose weight while improving your health, would you use them? If you knew that you could achieve long-term sustainable weight loss and improved health for you and your family, would you do whatever it took to achieve that? Hello, and thanks again for taking the time to learn more about how you can lose weight and improve your health. I'm Dr. Joel Feeman, and today I'm going to talk with you about why most diet programs fail, and not only fail, but fail miserably. If you've ever tried to lose weight before, then you know firsthand how frustrating it can be to have to count all the calories of every food that you eat every single day. And although I realize that it can sometimes be beneficial to first start to understand how many calories you're consuming, what most people fail to do is they fail to recognize the quality or type of calorie that they're consuming. Another thing that's popular in dieting today are all the foods that are out there labeled as either fat-free or sugar-free. They are everywhere. What about pre-packaged, microwavable, and sometimes mail-ordered foods? Have you ever tried those before? Are they healthy? Are they real? Can they actually help you to not just lose weight, but to be able to keep it off? Today I'm going to share with you why counting calories, eating pre-packaged, microwavable, or even fat-free foods is doomed for failure. This may come as a surprise to some, but as I break this down, you're going to soon be able to clearly see why these things are set up and cannot work for long-term sustainable weight loss or for improved health. Now keep in mind, you may know somebody or perhaps even yourself have tried these things before. Maybe you've been the calorie counter. Maybe you've lived off of those fat-free or sugar-free foods. Maybe you've lived off of for a period of time, or maybe you're still doing it, living off of pre-packaged foods. And maybe you've even lost weight. But if you're like most people, or those people who you may know who have tried these things, the question then becomes, have they sustained their weight loss and have they improved their overall health and well-being? For the vast majority, the answer is clearly no, which brings them to the point where they are today, like most people, frustrated, feeling let down, and desperate for help, desperate for change. So let's get right down to it and discover why counting calories may not be the most effective tool to use if you're trying to lose weight with long-term sustainability while improving your health. Before I do that though, allow me to briefly explain a couple key principles that explain to patients who are serious about reaching better levels of health. There are many different principles and laws that we apply in our lives every single day. Take, for example, the law of gravity. The law of gravity states that if I remove the friction between my two fingers here, this pen, regardless of what I believe, is going to drop and hit the floor. Another law is the law of cause and effect. Simply stated, for every cause, there will be an effect. And for every effect, there must first be an underlying cause. So when it comes to long-term sustainable health and weight loss, you have to understand the basic laws and principles to understand how this pertains to counting calories and fat-free or prepackaged microwavable foods and the quality of your health and how your body is going to heal. You know, as an example, I may have, let's say, a brown spot on the ceiling of the living room, and I may look up at that and think, well, maybe I just need to paint over that. So I get some Kills, I paint over it. But anybody who knows anything about brown spots on ceilings is able to clearly recognize that the reason why it's brown has to be addressed. In other words, the thought should be, I've got a water leak somewhere, whether it's plumbing up on the second story or perhaps in the roof itself. Just to simply paint it to cover it up does not address it, and therefore it's going to be an ongoing thing. I want you to think about that for just a moment. Most Americans who have tried to lose weight before or try to better their health find themselves repeatedly doing either the same program or something different, but they're expecting some kind of great result, but they keep going through these same processes that seem to be never ending, and they fail to get lasting results. We don't want that for you. So we have to understand how these things apply for lasting results. Another law is the law of adaptation in time. When given enough time, the body innately will adapt however necessary, whenever necessary, for the sake of survival. I'm going to touch on that in perhaps later videos. But for now, I want you to recognize that the law's there, it does exist, and it pertains to what I'm talking about now. You see, the president of Weight Watchers was once recorded saying that the whole idea of calorie counting has become unhelpful. And you have to understand that the whole foundation of what they did for many years was counting calories. In fact, the whole concept of calorie counting became so accepted that for decades then it launched one of the greatest mishaps that has ever happened in the world today as far as I'm concerned. Let me explain. When calorie counting became accepted years ago, it launched an era of prepackaged, microwavable foods that were then containing labels on them. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting that having labels on foods is a negative thing or a bad thing, but I am saying it can be a very misleading thing to a lot of people, especially if they don't know how to properly read those labels. Take, for example, you have one person who may hold an apple in their hand, and that apple may be around 95 to 100 calories. And so in their mind, well, I'm consuming 100 calories here. But then you have somebody who has in their hand maybe a package of cookies or donuts, and they may think, well, I also have 100 calories, and so a calorie is equal to a calorie, and so by taking the idea of quality out of that, they would then assume that these are two equal foods, and they're not. Calories are not created equal. The type of calorie has a huge effect on how your body's not able to just process that, but how it's going to be affected by that. Remember, the law of cause and effect. We're not talking short-term results, we're talking lifelong sustainable results. So you may find a number of foods and drinks and things on the market now that are low calorie. But in the same sense, if they lack quality, the question that becomes, what kind of effect is that going to have on your ability to achieve the weight loss dreams that you have, or even the dreams of better health? I want you to think for just a moment about the foods that you consume on the regular basis. Are they high quality or low quality foods? Are they nutrient enriched foods? Are they real natural foods that promote better life and better health? Or are they low quality foods that reflect how you look and how you feel? You see, the number one calorie that's consumed in America today is soda. What's even worse is how the USDA has now shown studies that show that a quarter of the calories consumed across the board are that of some type of sugar. It even goes as far as suggesting that the average American consumes over 142 pounds of sugar in their life, most of which are consumed by foods that people are consuming trying to lose weight. Here's the thing, even foods that are, quote, fat-free, they're low in fat, right? Perhaps, but in order to be fat-free, they have to be manufactured and created that way. In order to produce or manufacture foods that are fat-free, they're synthetically created, and in order to do so, oftentimes they have to remove the fiber and increase the fructose, as if that's ever going to have a lasting long-term improvement when it comes to your health or sustainable weight loss. Furthermore, research from the University of California shows that by consuming foods that are high in fructose are one of the best, quickest ways to literally trash your health. Insulin resistant, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, arthritis, obesity, or cancer. Sound familiar? These are all things that have been noted to increase with fat-free and high fructose type of foods. Listen to this. Research also shows that if you consume, let's say, 120 calories of glucose, you're going to store about 1 calorie of that in fat. On the other hand, if you consume the same amount of calories in fructose, you're going to then store over 40 of those calories as fat. So consuming lower calorie, lower fat foods, we're being told to think that those things are going to benefit us. But in the same sense, by doing that, if it increases fat storage, how is that going to effectively help you to not just lose weight, but to keep it off and maintain great health? It just doesn't happen that way. Here's the other thing. We're also told that fat is bad, that all fat's bad, and yet your brain is over 60% fat. Does it surprise you then that many times these people who are consuming these low-fat type of foods, they're trying to improve their health, they're trying to lose weight, they're trying to have a better life, But in the end, what happens is start to develop other conditions like the ones we just mentioned. Take, for example, high cholesterol. They take high cholesterol medications in because that's what they develop, that's what's recommended for them. As a result of that, they then start to have things like liver problems or liver failure even as a side effect. Perhaps because it's also affecting the fat of the brain and how the body's brain is processing and dealing with that fat, then they end up more susceptible to things like Alzheimer's, dementia, depression, or even brain fog. So what relationship do you think this has? Now that there's more weight gain and obesity, more diabetes, more high blood pressure, more high cholesterol, more, cardiovascular conditions overall, or even more cancer. Listen, if you're up for doing a little experiment, next time you go to your favorite grocery store, I want you to time yourself on how long it takes you to find real natural food. Now understand that many foods nowadays will even say that they're, quote, natural, which question then becomes, is everything else in the store unnatural? Another question that becomes, is what they're saying natural actually natural? Because you may actually have something that's labeled as natural and perhaps it is real chicken. But in the same sense, has it been genetically modified in terms of how that chicken grows? How about the foods? What was it fed? Were those genetically modified? Did they have pesticides and contaminants and sprays? What was their environment? And so nowadays, when you look at this, it becomes more challenging because in a grocery store, as large as it may be, there's literally a very small section of that particular store that has real, natural, whole foods. Sadly, as a result, most Americans will sometimes go days, if not even months, without ever consuming real natural foods. Imagine that. Listen, I know you get this. I know you get the big idea in terms of what I'm talking about here. But what I want you to understand is that the quality of what you do and how you consume in terms of your food source is going to have a direct effect on the quality of your life and your health. And it's also going to be largely dependent on how you're able to sustain great health and weight loss. And although I could share with you for hours on different aspects of nutrition and things of that nature, I want you to realize one key point here. The quality of your food source is going to have a huge impact directly to the quality of your life and your health and the sustainability of your weight loss. John Ruskin once said that quality is never an accident. It's a result of intelligent effort. If long-term sustainable weight loss and health is what you're after, then compromise is never an option. Until next time, God bless.